Ladies and gentlemen, in this video I'm going to solve one big struggle. I understand. It's hard to make the drums sound punchy when you're a beginner, when you don't have a set of skills. This is why I'm here, to show you how you can basically make the drum bass and the drums overall sound very punchy and very tight in the mix. The key here is saturation. So we're going to make sure the RMS value is great enough so it keeps your drums very punchy, very loud, without actually destroying the headroom. So we're basically going to keep the same peak level of the input signal with the output signal. So this doesn't confuse you. We are not going to dive into compression. Compression is another thing. We are going with saturation. This is the exact thing how you can make drums very punchy. Many people talk about compression and everything, but no one talks about how important is saturation. Let me show you how saturation can change the way you process drums. So before we move on to the video, so I don't waste your time, let me show you how the results sound before and after. I'm having 4 bands here. I have the one for the lows, and I'm basically doing no saturation here yet. I'm doing something, but you'll see. I'm keeping the warm tape, and I'm using this transient envelope valve that I routed to this specific drive knob and this output pen just to create more movement there when the drums play. I have band here focused on the kick, of course warm tape, and I'm doing the same exact thing with this transient follower. The way I created this, I'm going to emulate this right now. I select new envelope follower, I selected this transient, and then I routed it first to this drive knob and then to this output pen. Now when routing to output pen, I selected this minus. Since when I play my drums, I don't want this specific range to be expanded in stereo, I want to narrow the transient image around the mono material. That's the reason we have this minus right here on the drive pen. Of course we have the plus for the drive, since we want to expand the transients and basically create more movement around the transients and to basically saturate them. On the mid band, this focus around the mid range and the upper highs, I'm having the clean tape here, and I'm doing the same thing for the drive knob and for the drive pen, but in comparison to the lower band, I'm going with this plus sign, since I want to expand the transients and give a bit more that stereo information and that movement around the stereo image. I'm doing the same for the highs here, exactly the same as for the mid band, but why do I have this specific band set around, let's say, 10K? Originally, when you listen to tape and how tape operates, it's basically going to roll off some of the high end in order to emulate warmth. This is how tape naturally works. So I'm emulating the same effect using Saturn too. This is why I have this 10K band there. And other adjustments I did is I also use this 1 dB boost right here around the mid-range, which sounds incredible on drums, and I have about 2.5, 2.7 dB boost on the very top, since we want that crisp high-end and very, very upfront sounding drums. Remember, drums are one of the main instruments when you listen to the mix. This is why we do processing like this. Another thing you can notice is this dynamics knob right here. I also use this transient envelope for this dynamics just to avoid keeping the constant compression there. If you play the drums, you'll see that this is set at minus. So if I play this, you can see that I'm basically not having constant compression. I'm going back to the default value. This is how I set this up basically. Now you can see that we have a few more things going on here below these specific bands. I'm having one slider right here, which is used to run more signal through Saturn II without having those loudness differences. I'm going to remove this and show you how I set this up. So I'm basically selecting a slider right here, and I'm going to take this point, route to my input first, and then to my output. And on the output I'm going to select minus. So whenever I increase this slider, as you can see here, you can see that I'm basically running more signal through while also compensating for any loudness differences there. And I'm also keeping the mix knob at around 90%. And why is this? I want to always keep some of the dry signal through. I'm basically using that parallel effect we can get especially on drums. So I'm keeping that only 10% of the dry transients so we get more natural results. And another thing I have is this X and Y controller, and this is only for this specific mid-band, and I'm also going to set this up from scratch. So I'm going with new X and Y controller here, and I'm going to route X to this treble, and I'm going to route Y to this presence, and on X here I'm going to select minus. Now, whenever I move this on, you can see different movement happening there. So for example, if I want to increase even more brightness and basically make more movement around the mid-range and basically brighten my drums up, I can just use this. As you can see, I'm basically increasing the treble and the presence using this one controller. So this is an interesting way you can manipulate how your drums sound. And you can, for example, use another XLY controller route to your bass and mid, for example, if you're working with a single band right here, and do many different things. So this is just my creative effect and what I like doing on drums. And by saturating, we're getting a lot of RMS value, especially saturating very creative like this. We're not only using saturation, we're also doing many modulations that Saturn 2 offers, we're doing many different things. And now I'm getting back to the lower band. I have basically zero saturation there, but when I play the drums, you can see some movement going. That's because I use these transients here just to create a bit more punch on the low end. So yeah, it's super simple to add RMS value to your drums and make them sound louder. The thing is, this takes some time to learn, and hopefully these presets will definitely help you. So this preset is available within our Saturn 2 pack. We have it for a reason, and we have many more for different instruments for mastering, so make sure to check that out. It's highly affordable and I highly recommend checking this out, since you can also learn how saturation works with this specific pack. Thank you again for watching the video. Hopefully you learned new things, and I believe you did. And see you in another video. Let's do one more comparison before and after before we end the video.